Hi everybody, it's Mike Valente here from Shaw TV, and I am here with Donnell Leahy and Natalie MacMaster, two of the most dynamic performers and fiddlers in the country, and dare I say the world. Yes, that's right, I went there. How are you guys?
Lay it on. It's great.
You guys doing well?
Great, yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, for those of you who don't know, according to legal documents, you two are married. That was back in 2002, so almost 15 years now. Yep. Over that course of time, what would you say you two have learned about each other or from each other in terms of performing and recording music? Let's start with Donnell.
Well, first thing we learned musically is that we play very differently. We were at a house party one night and someone taped it, and we were all excited. We were newly married, and we were playing the fiddles, and we listened to it the next day, and it was bad. And it's because my style was covering up Natalie's nuances and
Right.
the little things I do in my music, inflections Natalie was covering up. So we said, whoa.
Yeah.
So, but we when we write music together or we learn a piece together, it all makes sense, and we've learned to get along musically.
I think you have, right? Because on top of being married, you two have 6 children together. 6 children, that's a lot of babies. And they're always on tour with you, and you bring them on stage. It's part of the show. They're playing violin, they're dancing. I think it's truly incredible how you two have incorporated your family into your music. Those both parts of your lives are so intertwined that it's one. I mean, and that's got to be important to you, obviously, that you've pretty much started this from the get-go, right?
Yeah, for sure. I remember Donnell doing an interview recently and someone saying, wow, you're taking your kids on tour, that must be hard. And Donnell said, well, it'll be much harder leaving without them.
Fair enough, yeah.
And so we do have
Right.
the opportunity and the blessing to be able to take them with us. And it's a lifestyle that has mostly good things to it and mostly good attributes. You know, being away from home can be hard, but the kids, if you get the right balance, as long as they're not away from home too often, and for us too, as long as we're not away from home too often, we do these stints where we go out for a month, and they learn all sorts of things, and we homeschool, we do our books here, and they practice, and they're practicing right now as we speak, and stage life, and that's a lot of good learning. And we also try and go to museums and things and that, but
You know, they used to come out for sound check. That's how it all started. They'd come out and we'd put a little microphone down and they'd go out and do their thing. And when the lights came on, they went out and did their thing, and they didn't really notice people were there.
Nice. Okay, Natalie, we got to talk about Cape Breton,
Oh,
okay?
oh, no,
So my great-grandparents lived in Judique on a farm. That was then handed down to my grandparents. I remember going with my sister and my family out in the summers to Nova Scotia to visit the farm in Cape Breton in Judique. I remember seeing you in Port Hawkesbury as a kid. My mom just saw you recently at the Judique Interpretive Center a couple years back. So your music, as well as Donnell's music, has been in our family a long time now. So what's the best part about being a Cape Breton girl, to borrow a line from your previous album? Because, you know, Cape Breton, I think, probably is the best place on earth, isn't it?
well, it's awfully good for me. It's right here, embedded deeply.
Right.
And I really want to give whatever I can of it to our children. Of course, we're living in Ontario, which is a wonderful decision too. I mean, we have a lovely farm there, and it's a great place to raise children. But we make efforts, great efforts, to get home because my family's there, and we want our kids to have a little bit of that personality of Cape Breton that is, I think, very appreciative, very laid back, very light-hearted in life.
Yes.
And hopefully we can pass that on.
Firstly, you're authentic because you say Judique. You said it correctly.
Not Judique.
Lots of people say we went to Judique.
Yeah, no, it's Judique,
You
right?
got it.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's
you got
right.
it.
Okay, good.
The other thing is that I've had trouble. It was made very clear to me from the beginning that I am not from Cape Breton. I am not a Cape Bretoner. Now my mom's Cape Breton. My children are 3 parts Cape Breton.
Really? Okay.
And I'm not a Cape Bretoner. I've learned to accept that. And we were down at the East Coast Music Awards here, and we happened to get a couple of awards. But anyway, the next day in the paper, the Cape Breton Post said, 2 of our own
Oh, there you go.
brought home awards.
Yes.
So the Cape Breton Post has officially
Adopted.
I am now a Cape Bretoner.
There you go.
Because it was in the paper.
Congratulations.
very
All the best. That's fantastic. You mentioned, Natalie, the personality. I firmly believe that the best sense of humor this country could provide is from the East Coast. It's from the Maritimes. Any Cape Breton jokes or stories that come to mind that you could potentially regale us with?
Are you
like just
kidding?
Some, yeah,
On
a few,
camera?
right?
And now I know your sense of humor. Right on, buddy.
Anything
You
come
shut
to
that
mind?
thing off?
Huey and Alan.
Huey and Alan. Oh, Huey and Alan. Do you remember Huey and Alan?
I don't think I do.
So they were these two old guys that wore overalls
Okay.
and old work pants and plaid shirts and, you know, old some sort of hat. And they had big, thick glasses on, and they did this comedy routine where they would just tell stories back and forth to one another. And they always had a little lisp when they would talk.
I see.
And so I sort of developed a little bit of the Huey and Alan. And so I can tell you about the time that I went on the airplane. I was going on the airplane for the first time, and I was a little bit scared. I was nervous. But I sat down, I got my seat,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, this fellow comes sitting down beside me. And before I knew it, he was sound asleep. Well, didn't we start going down the runway? And then up into the air. Well, I felt her coming up in me stomach, and I thought, what am I going to do? And before I knew it, I got sick all over the fella beside me. And he was still asleep. I thought, what in the name of God am I going to say when this fella wakes up? And sure enough, his eyes started opening. He looks down at his lap. He looks over at me. I gave him a dig in the ribs, and I said, are you feeling better now, mister?
That, my friends, is all you need right there. That's Cape Breton to a T. That's a wonderful story. Now, speaking more about your family, Buddy MacMaster, your uncle,
Yeah.
I mean, absolute legend. Growing up for you, when you saw him play, did you just say to yourself, that's what I got to be right there?
Well, when you're a kid, you don't. Well, for me, my experience is not one where I've decided I wanted to do something.
Right.
It was much more of a natural progression. Like, I grew up in a very musical home. My mom taught me to dance when I was 5. I remember having a piano in the house, and I was always at it, singing Gaelic songs. And then when I was 9, my granduncle sent me a fiddle. It was 3/4 size, and I suppose because it was smaller, I took to it more easily than I did the full-size fiddles in our home. And I remember that night learning Twinkle Little Star, and it came very easily. I remember, you know, after about 6 months playing in like local concerts, and then I started taking lessons for a couple of years. And so, and Buddy being my uncle, I heard him play at every family function, every funeral, every wedding, every baptism, every Easter, every Christmas. I went to all, he played more than anybody around the island, and I went to most of his functions, got to watch him play live, and so many other great fiddlers too. And I just slowly wanted to, you know, mimic those sounds that I was hearing. And, you know, I started something and I knew I could do it, and I wanted to get better at it. And it slowly led me into the industry. I didn't decide I want to be a fiddle star. Not that I'm a fiddle star, but
Oh, I think you are, Natalie.
whatever it is. But it just kind of happened.
There you go. There you go. Donnell, tell us about your current album now. It's a Christmas album. It's fantastic.
We were married 14 years, and we had planned on recording together right away. And but recording was never the priority. Natalie had a project she was involved with, and I had my thing, and then it was never the emergency. So we made our first record together a couple years ago called One.
Last year.
Okay. And then
Marriage.
and then we always wanted to do a Christmas record, and so we were just kind of in the recording mode, and the time was right, so we made the record. And no, it wasn't weird. We've been thinking about this for a while, and we love the Christmas music and the melodies, and so it was just kind of natural. And we went into the studio in June, summer with our shorts on, and made this record. But it was a great thing we had so much fun recording it.
Right.
We love the music. We like the record. And
I love the record.
Yeah.
I love the way it turned out.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, I have to say to the both of you that the humility you two have, both in person here and on stage, is just so appealing. It's incredible to see the both of you perform. And I know you both know this proverb, a violin sings but a fiddle dances. And you two have been sweeping us off our feet for many years and continue to do so. Thanks very much for the time.
You're
Thanks very
welcome.
much.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Natalie MacMaster, everybody, and Donnell Leahy.